Hello, welcome to Stories from the Toy Shelf. This is another new format I'm going to try. I'd like to call it, for lack of a better title, The Best and the Worst. So it's not really a review sort of an episode per se. I mean, I'm not going to be doing any transformations or showing off articulation and whatnot. This is sort of like an afterthought, right? So basically, I'm going to tell you what I think are the best parts of a toy and the worst. So I'm going to start things off with not the Insecticons, but what many widely consider to be the enemies of these guys. Let's do some Dinobots. So it took us what seemed like forever, give it 3 or 4 years, but like most Transformers collectors out there, I finally got all 5 Leader Class Studio Series 86 Dinobots, with Swoop finally coming in a few months ago. So here it is, probably the best collection of official Dinobots, we're not counting third party here, that Hasbro has given us since the original ones. So let's talk about the best and the worst of the Studio Series 86 Dinobots. Okay, so let's get started with the first Dinobot released in early 2021, Grimlock. So the best thing about this guy is, well, he pretty much set the precedent in terms of size. So this is the first Leader class sized Dinobot that we got that's based on the classic design from Hasbro. Prior to this, we had the Powers of the Prime one, which was a Voyager size and slightly undersized. So it was mainly because of the combiner gimmick. So that is what I would say is the best thing about this guy, is that he's big, he's pretty solid, and he doesn't stray too much from the original one's transformation, so there's a lot of familiarity behind it. A reoccurring theme with all these Dinobots. And yeah, I guess that's it. In terms of the worst, well, again, this is something that we probably mentioned with most of the Dinobots. This guy basically came with his gun, no sword, which Grimlock and the Dinobots are pretty much famous for their swords. And he came with a wheelie accessory, which I guess if you're an optimist is a good thing, but Hasbro kind of cut corners majorly on that. And we'll get to that in the worst of this figure. Okay, so now on to Dino Mode. Well, Grimlock in Dino Mode is basically what you would expect from a G1 Grimlock Tyrannosaurus. Not historically correct anymore, but you can still do the more widely accepted pose for a Tyrannosaurus now. But anyway, the worst parts of Grimlock actually come here in Dinobot mode. I guess you'll notice these aren't the original parts for Grimlock. So the original Grimlock had these dino arms which were very limited in articulation, and it really bugged me. I think they came this way. Or no, it came this way. I could be wrong. But either way, it really bugged me that he didn't have any wrist articulation. And another annoying thing about the Dino Mode was, again, you can't see it here, but all you Grimlock owners would know, he didn't come with any front teeth, right? So I bought the DNA kit, which basically gave him his chompers and more articulation in these arms. It also came with panels for here, but they didn't really fit well, so I didn't even bother. It's not really a big deal for me. But anyway, the other thing it came with was another sword. Well, a sword. So it worked for Grimlock. You can attach it over. Let's see, where does this go? Over here. And another issue I don't like about this guy is weapon storage. Okay, they could have, I don't know, easily made him, like most Masterpiece Grimlocks have a port here in the back to basically give him a gun that could attach in the back and he could, use in battle. But instead, they had the weapon storage for this guy over here to this side, which is kind of odd. An odd way to store a weapon. I mean, yeah, I guess if you've got an enemy on the side, it would do the work. But yeah, that's the other thing I didn't like about this guy. And the last thing was the wheelie. Again, I have him in storage. The reason why is because the upgrade kit came with this dude. So a more articulated wheelie. So if you know, the original wheelie was kind of like Daniel. I mean, well, he followed the same pattern of just basically a very simplistic accessory. I mean, you couldn't call him an action figure. So this wheelie has all the articulation you need, and he transforms. Yes, I know there's a Studio Series wheelie. Well, maybe it's just pride that since I already spent for this guy, I don't want to spend for the Studio Series wheelie. This guy is very finicky, and he's just really there for display. And he will fit. he will fit on top. But, stock Grimlock, the wheelie that came with it is another worst part of it. Again, they could have just ditched him and given him a proper sword to begin with. So that would be Grimlock. Next up, Dinobot number 2, released also in 2021, later 2021, Slag. And yes, he is Slag, not Slug, not Snarl, not whatever. Slag, the Triceratops. So the best thing about this guy, again, just like Grimlock, solid. The size is consistent. No loose parts here. And what else? I guess there's nothing else I can really say about this guy in terms of that. He's another solid entry to the Dinobots and something to get really excited about. Hasbro's really into something. But the worst, okay. So first of all, kind of unfair, but this guy. So again, possibly another throw-in by Hasbro. Still, I think they could have given us more than this piece of plastic. At the very least, they could have ditched this guy and given us a sword, right? Again, another Dinobot without a sword. But in terms of the actual figure itself, the worst thing about this guy, I would say, is I think he's kind of a bit too tight. Like, look, I like the idea of the chest being able to compress in Dino mode, but this side is like really, really tough. And to be honest, I worry that it might give way sometime. Aside from that, profile-wise, proportions, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel that his chest is a little bit too wide. Maybe if they could have compressed it just a little bit more, it could have worked better. Other than that, the back, I've seen reviews where people were complaining that this thing has no actual latch on point, but it does hold on tension-wise if you transform it properly. But yes, I'll agree, it could have been done better. So, and the horns. they could have, not given us these waffle horns, and I wouldn't complain if they gave us red horns. So, but other than that, another solid entry. For Slag, well, he's a pretty decent Triceratops, and the Triceratops being my favorite dinosaur, this really was important to me. Again, could have used red horns, and this is where the hollowness really bugs me. But other than that, it's a fairly decent Triceratops. Oh, the other thing that really bugged me are these hind legs. I mean, I get it, it's transformation. You got to get these lower legs to fit inside the upper parts of the legs. But they just look so flimsy. I guess from the side, it's no problem. But yeah, compared to his front legs, which are the arms, I mean, I don't know. It's like his hind legs missed muscle day in the gym. A really good thing about this guy is the weapon integration. So that's his gun. It stuffs into his tail, and it's just perfect. So I basically assigned this one that came with the DNA kit for Slag. But again, no place to put him in Dino mode, so he just holds it in robot mode. And yes, there was a DNA kit for this guy with the proper horns and a better Daniel, but I figured I didn't really want to splurge on that one. And anyway, I got the Studio Series Daniel, or Spike or whatever, but that works. Honestly, I don't even know what Daniel has got to do with Slag to begin with. They just figured he probably needed a pack-in, and so yeah, so we got Daniel. Okay, so here's where things get interesting. Next up, the third Dinobot released in 2022, Sludge. So I'll be the first to say that I'm not the biggest fan of Sludge the Dinobot, period. But okay, I'll give him this. This guy, the best for this guy is that he's got one of the coolest transformations. I never had the original Sludge toy as a kid, but I imagine that pulling out this chest, turning it around, and basically flipping him over wasn't really part of the original engineering. If it is, I'm wrong, but I found it cool. I found it really cool. I like the fact that, I mean, the Dinobots are all slightly similar in size, but there is a noticeable difference in terms of his size. Well, maybe it's not so obvious here, but he looks bigger, aside from Slag being so wide and everything. But he does look bigger, and as a Brontosaurus, or an Apatosaurus, or whatever you want to call him, I always envisioned Sludge to be slightly bigger than everyone else. So yeah, one of the best engineerings. Unfortunately, in terms of the worst, well, I'm sure everyone can agree with me here. Ugh. So his joints are loosey-goosey. And aside from that, yeah, everything about him, everything that I said about Grimlock and Slag, I don't know what the hell happened. Those two were really, really solid. But this guy, his construction, I mean, the neck can easily be slid out. And the biggest offender are these wings. I mean, look, they could have at least used proper, I don't know, it's just held by tension, right? And I tried to fix it by putting some clear nail polish, and it kind of worked a bit, but it's very, very loose. And throw in the bad knees and everything. Okay, mine is, to be fair, mine isn't so bad, but I mean, if you compare it to the other two, the ones that came before it, these are just awful. But anyway, so that gives us a very, very flimsy robot mode. And again, no sword. Sludge Dino mode, it's pretty much what you'd want from it. Yeah, I know people complain about the hollowness in the bottom, but it doesn't really bug me. And weapon storage is like Grimlock, but because it's in the bottom, it doesn't really bug me too much. So yeah, he's pretty solid. I think the worst part of this is actually just getting to it. I mean, the first time I did it, it was cool, you know, discovering the interesting engineering to get from robot mode to dino mode. But after doing it a couple times, you know, the novelty of it wears off. And at the end of the day, he is the most finicky Dinobot to transform. I mean, the other guys I can transform back and forth all day, but this guy, you know, I'll do it once and then I'm good. But other than that, once you get to Dino mode, if you can get past the hollowness, I really can't think of any worst part of this guy. I mean, I love the face. No worst for this Dino mode. Okay, sorry. If I had to nitpick, it would be his tail. I mean, yes, I get it. You gotta figure out a way to transform it, but it's just so stubby, right? And it just points out directly, straight out vertically. I don't know what they could have done, but if you got a nitpick, you got a nitpick. But yeah, I love the fact that you could like, oh no, could you? No, I can't. Scrap that. I was gonna say I love the fact how you can splay the legs and do the whole Sludge smashed by Devastator thing, but nope, I guess you can't do that. Anyway, Sludge. Next up in 2023, my on and off favorite, it's usually a toss-up between him and Slag, is Snarl. So there was a rumor going around that supposedly Snarl and Swoop were going to be Voyagers. And thankfully that rumor was not true. And so we got Snarl. The best thing about this guy, okay, Sludge was really bad in terms of joint tightness and everything. So I don't know what it was, but Hasbro seemed to have made it up with this guy. So far, in my opinion, this guy is the best in terms of quality, construction. He has the tightest joints and he's solid. Another best thing about him is, look, he has a sword. But unfortunately, it's a very rubbery sword. Oh, yeah, it's not quite straight, so gotta work on that. And as you can notice, his other hand is empty because he does not have a gun. So I don't know what's up with Hasbro. I mean, I guess Snarl is more iconic with his sword, but they could have picked the lane, right? Either if they didn't want to give them both, give them all guns, give them all swords, just so they match, right? You can argue, I guess, that his proportions are a bit, you know, chest heavy again, but I don't mind. I really, and maybe I'm just biased, but I really like Snarl. And I'm very happy that we got a leader version of him. So that's the best thing I can say about Snarl. He has the best quality of the bunch so far. Beast mode Snarl. Okay, so everyone always complains that, yes, I get it. His head, it doesn't match the other Dinobots. Where's the gold? The yellow bugs people. I don't know. I never really noticed it. I thought it was okay. I guess if I don't stare at it too long enough, it won't bother me. But okay, whatever. It is what it is. I like the weapon integration. Initially, I thought that the weapon was stored up here. You got the peg and stuff, which is kind of dumb. But thankfully, it's got an actual proper weapon storage down here in the bottom. So you don't really see it in Dino mode. So the worst part of this mode is this. Yes, it's part of the engineering, but they could have done a better job at trying to make sure that these two halves peg in properly, because as it is, well, you can see it. That line, that gap, it's so annoying. And it's even, made more obvious because of the Autobot symbol. But, other than that, it's pretty solid. I mean, I could have used more spikes. I mean, the Stegosaurus is known for having more spikes on the tail. So yeah, we could have used that. I don't mind the flimsier, softer material for the plates because, if it were harder, there's more possibilities for breakage. So yeah, Dinobot Snarl, nothing bad about this except this, which is a major one, the worst of this toy, the head. Ugh. And finally, we have the last Dinobot that we got this year, and it seemed like I waited forever for this guy. Swoop. I finally caved and I got this guy in Singapore through a friend of mine. And yeah, so it's Swoop, and he finishes a 3 to 4 year journey of us finally getting proper leader-sized classic Dinobot. So that's the best thing about him. He finishes our team finally. Okay, in terms of the toy itself, the best thing about him, he continues the same good quality, I think, as Snarl does. He's pretty solid for what he is. I mean, he's Swoop. And I don't know, the first time I saw him online, pictures of him online, I was kind of, I don't know, I thought he kind of looked proportionally off and stuff. But in hand, again, a cliche thing, but in hand, he is a lot better. I think he's a lot better. He comes with his sword. I don't think Swoop actually had his guns, so he gets a pass, right? He gets his rockets, which can work as guns. And he also came with an extra sword, which is Grimlock's. So Grimlock gets a sword, so great. Anyway, what I don't like about him is, well, I get it. He's Swoop. He's the pterodactyl. I don't know. Is he supposed to be smaller than everyone else? Right? I mean, I can take a little side, but he just seems a little bit too small for my taste. But again, beggars can't choosers, right? Another thing I didn't quite like about him is, well, you'll see it more in alt mode. So yeah, let's get to that. And finally, we have Swoop. Okay, so yeah, weapon storage, not the best. Well, what can you do with it, right? It's a sword. But anyway, not the worst part of this mode. The worst part of this mode was when I first saw it, I felt the wings were kind of too stubby, too short. They could have made them longer. But I do love the way that they engineered it, that, they could fold this way. Actually, maybe the first pictures I saw were like this, so they really look stubby. So they look a lot better folded out like that. But anyway, that's one issue with this guy. The second issue is, yeah, there's no proper way to tab the arms. The arms should have been tabbed to the body and not here. The tabbing point is in the wings. I don't know if you can see it, but well, if you know, you know, right? The problem there is that when you try to articulate the wings to make them more angled, then you lose the tabbing point for the arms. So yeah, over here, the tab over there, and you lose that. I mean, fine, it won't fall. It's pretty sturdy, so no biggie. My biggest problem with this is, another nitpick. You could have used the tail, right? I mean, I like that little tail of Swoop. But anyway, my biggest issue with this guy is right here. What do you see? Nothing. I mean, this guy is best displayed on a flight stand, right? So he could fly above all the other Dinobots. But they didn't give us anything to attach a flight stand to. I mean, this hole is too small. It's not a 3mm peg, right? You could have used a clasp, maybe. I don't know if they could have just thrown in a clasp or something that you could attach. There is a workaround around this, which I figured. So basically, can you do it from here? Yeah, you just twist around the waist and you twist around the thighs, and then you just transform accordingly. Problem here is you lose the attachment here on the back, the feet. But again, it won't go anywhere. But this gives you, there you go. Yeah, it gives you I guess this is a 3M port. So if you have something to give this guy some height, there you go. There's your port. You lose all the stability, all the locking points. But yeah, Swoop that's Swoop for you. And that should cover the Dinobots. Grimlock, and then we got Slag, and we all fit in here. Sludge, right? And Snarl. Let's put Snarl. Oops. Back up. Snarl. And Swoop. Again, no flight stand. But all right, it took 4 years. It was a long journey, but we finally have a perfectly sized set of classic Dinobots. No need for any combiner modes or anything. These are just exactly what I guess all of us wanted, right, from the very start. So they're not perfect, But, they're the best things that we can get for Dinobots in terms of Dinobots for our Chug collections right now. And to be honest, I don't think we need any others, right? Well, okay, fine. If they want to give us a G1 Scorn, or a G1 Scar, I think they did a Legends version of Scar. I'm all for it. Give us leader size to those guys and a Slash. Give me a Voyager Slash. So, but other than that, that's it. That's the Dinobots. And so that's it for now. See you till the next episode.